Kate Harrison.
Here.
Roger Tone.
Present.
Mike Parsons.
Here.
John Edwards.
Here.
John Quinn.
Just ourselves and no other interested citizens here. Yeah, so your motion for the consent agenda, please.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented. I'll second.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Kate Harrison.
Yes.
Roger Tone.
Yes.
Mike Parsons.
Yes.
John Edwards.
Yes.
It's been passed. Okay, resolution 2419, transfer of appropriations in FY 2024 budget.
Yeah, these are our last of the amounts that we were slightly over budget using contingency amounts for those. There is a correction on the last part of the 21,000 being transferred. It says Shady Cove Treatment Plant, but it's the Gold Hill Collection Fund to match the next line down. Joan has that on the original to be signed today. So.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions?
How come we only charge them at 1.5%?
Yeah.
Interfund is all us. You can change that if you want, but I mean, it's just money we're shifting between funds. So
They're shifting. The Gold Hill's going to pay the 1.5% still, right?
that is, where does that say that? Wait a minute, you're on that. Okay, you're
You're on 19.
Oh,
I was
sorry.
like, yours.
We're not to the next one yet.
Okay, let's take a breath.
We're not there yet.
Sorry.
Easily confused voucher, so be careful.
Sorry.
All right, so roll call, please. Motion first. It's always good.
I move to approve resolution 2419, transfer of appropriations, fiscal year 2024 budget as presented. I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Kate Harrison.
Yes.
Roger Tone.
Yes.
Mike Parsons.
Yes.
John Edwards.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Now, resolution 2420 to initiate an interfund loan for 2023-24 budget from General Fund 01 to Gold Hill Treatment Fund 60.
So in Treatment Fund 60, that's where we started the regional connection, the pre-design work. We didn't budget for it for fiscal year 24. We spent $338,000. We do have 2 reimbursements that we sent over in July. So it's really a timing issue. There's about $319,000 coming to us in reimbursements. But with that, for proper budgeting, I need to have my funds in a positive balance. So we just did a quick interfund loan. The rate of 1.5% is just a chosen rate that we've always used. But it'll be paid back probably any day when we receive a reimbursement. We turned one of them in 1st of July and then the second one the end of July. So I'm suspecting any moment we should be getting it.
Yeah. So
To pay that.
I mean, but Roger's got a point. I mean, if we wanted to set that to match what we're getting in LGFD, that would be reasonable. But like Brenda says, it's only going to be for a couple of weeks. So it's kind of material. It couldn't have played.
Yeah, it's just one we've always used. The
Hi, John.
1.5%.
No.
So we want to change it, yeah.
Seemed like it makes well,
It what, John?
it seemed like it would make a difference.
So we still.
That's okay. My clock was fast, but it wasn't my bad.
Resolution 2420. This is the interfund loan from the general fund to Gold Hill. And we give money to,
It looked fine
all right, roll call, please.
We
Do we
to me.
do,
Motion.
oh, motion first. Disrupted my cookies.
Sorry. I'll make a motion to initiate an interfund loan for 2023, 2024 budget from the General Fund 01 to the Gold Hill Treatment Fund 60.
I second that motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Now roll call, please.
Kay Harrison,
Yes.
Richard Jones.
Yes.
Mike Parsons.
Yes.
John Edwards.
Yes.
John Coyle.
Yes.
Okey dokey. Now, we're looking at resolution 2421, height upsizing reimbursement rates.
Will you do this, Carl? I'll do it. Okay, I'm gonna do it. Okay. This is, we do this every year. There are occasions that happen where we tell a developer that they need to build a bigger pipe than they need. And so this would happen, for instance, if someone's doing a subdivision, they're extending a pipe, and we know there's further development upstream from that, we'll ask them to upsize the pipe. Since it doesn't benefit their project directly, we reimburse them for the cost difference in upsizing the pipe. And rather than argue with the developer about what the cost difference is, we set it in advance. So this would apply to anybody in that situation. It doesn't happen very often, but when it does, we have this resolution. We say, okay, you've asked to upsize it. This is the amount you're going to get paid for.
So everybody knows what's going on.
Exactly. Yeah.
No surprises.
Right. And so, so we do this, we update this every year to reflect the current cost of pipe and labor. And it does the analysis to factor in what the actual cost is from going from an 8-inch pipe to a 10-inch pipe or 12-inch pipe. We would pay for that if whenever we come to that situation.
You're just doing this in preparation of future projects.
Exactly, yes. And that's paid for out of our SDC funds, right? Which is appropriate.
So this would be piping that's off the site of the actual development.
Well, not necessarily. It can be actually through it. So an 8-inch pipe is the standard. That's the minimum size. That's big enough to serve easily 400 or 500 houses without any problem. So if someone's doing a development, they need to extend the pipe, and they've got a 40 by 7 or whatever. It would be an 8-inch pipe. But if we know that there's a whole lot of development upstream, we would tell them, we want you to put a 12-inch pipe all the way through to the end of your project, so the next person that comes on can connect off that. We have that capacity. And so the difference in cost between the 8-inch that they would have to go no matter what, and the 12-inch that we're asking them to, we would reimburse that difference.
It's in the sense, on the one hand, liquidated damages, so we know how much it's gonna cost, and two, it saves the attorney fees of a Nolan argument.
Absolutely, yes.
All right.
That's what I meant to say.
That math works. Let's say I'm putting down 40 houses. Let's use the King and South Stage, because that's what I can picture in my head.
Exactly, yeah.
Let me say we want to go 12 instead of 8. How many dollars have we spent then?
Well,
what do you think? I know the rate, I get it.
Oh, okay.
How big, it's, what is that, 6 acres-ish on the west side of King, something like that?
Yeah, it really,
7, that territory?
It really depends on the configuration of the subdivision. If it's kind of really nice windy streets, you put in a ton of manholes, and if it wraps around, you put in a lot of sewer. If it's on a grid, that's super efficient.
This is pretty grid.
Yeah. So, Tim, rates right now, I think on the private side, you're hovering right around $200 a foot.
Of the 8.
Of the 8.
And so they already have to pay to dig the hole and do a lot of stuff. We just,
Right.
and how much extra would we pay if we had them throw in 12, let's say?
It's-
I see the math, but I want to
Yeah.
practically understand it.
It's basically the difference between the cost of the pipe and the additional material. And then we've got there's a lot of assumptions on the labor, because how much more labor does it cost to put a 12-inch pipe than an 8-inch got?
Not so much.
Not so much, but it's just basically the additional labor to put the additional material in. So, but that's all kind of wrapped in.
So a typical subdivision, they might be putting in 200 or 300 feet of pipe for us, and our reimbursement rate for 8 to 12 is about $15. So
Doesn't seem
it's not a
unreasonable.
lot.
No. Thank you very much. I just wanted to have a practical understanding. And a quiet song.
I don't find my car.
I will shut mine off for court and forgot to shut it off for this.
Okie dokie. Any other questions?
And the blue part is the new.
No, The key parts, those are the numbers that I need to remind myself that I need to update.
Okay. Now, motion, please.
I move to approve resolution 24-21, five sites reimbursement rates as presented.
All second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Kate Harrison.
Yeah.
Roger Tom.
Yes.
Mike Parsons.
Yes.
John Evan.
Yes.
Joe Quinn.
Yes.
Thank you, guys. And now, financial.
Okay, this is the year-end, 12 months, June 30 state of financial statements, unaudited. So the LGIP rate is at 5.2 as of June, which is good. One item I did want to note on here, on page 7, you see a $62,000 credit on the ODOT J309. That was a ODOT reimbursement for that project that was done a year or two ago.
Yeah, it may take a minute.
Yeah, it was, so that's the credit after some of the expenses that we spent in 24. That's why there's a credit. But the credit is for the year's prior expenses that are not shown on here, so.
Yeah,
The
that's
ODOT
usually-
reimbursed us for.
yeah, those reimbursements are typically for costs that are unrealized during the project that were anticipated.
Uh-huh.
So a lot of times they'll estimate the costs and then they don't actually spend all the money that we paid them, like in an escrow account to buy it.
Okay. I understand. Okay, cool. Any other questions or information for this one? Okay. Thanks, Brenda.
You're welcome.
Now, project update.
I've got unrelated items. It's kind of a late ad. We had some conversations with City Center Point yesterday. Some of you folks might be aware of the Little League fields or Hanley Road.
You have the messages out there?
Yeah, it's going, but they've had a rough go so far, and it's all kind of the funding's kind of donations. And the city's trying to push it across the goal line. Anyways, so they're really close to being able to hook up to sewer, but they wanted to get their permits, and so we allowed them. They also were questioning whether or not they could defer the SDCs. And in the past for parks, a handful of parks around the valley, we have a provision in the code that allows the board to make a decision whether or not they want to actually waive the SDCs for a facility that benefits the common community good, or so I can't remember what the language is, but something to that effect, right? So Matt's Sanator at the city of Central Point has made that request in the past, and his emails in the back requesting we waive these SDCs. So you can see the costs, the estimate for the SDCs, and then the email that was sent.
And like Nick says, we've done this pretty much every time someone builds a park.
Yeah,
We cover the SDCs and we get a little plaque we put on. We don't.
right.
Good guys.
Yeah, we just did this with the city.
And since this was kind of a last minute thing, what we'd like is if the board approves it, just to give us, just do a motion and approve that. And I'll come back next month with an actual formal resolution, because I'd like to have that document. But this would allow them to get their permits.
Okay, so we still need a motion, Lauren?
I'd like that, yes.
Yeah. So I'm asking for a motion to waive the STCs for the city of Central Point for the Little League field.
So moved.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Kate Harrison.
Yes.
Roger Tom.
Yes.
Mike Parsons.
Yes.
John Evan.
Yes.
John.
Yes.
What's the amount of SDC waiving we're doing?
Yeah, we done it.
So,
Yeah, this is a real late ad. I could get it back in there.
I was thinking about recusing myself because being, as two of us are, with the city, but knowing what they've gone through since day one, original concept was for 6 fields on the property adjoining the Boy Scout Park. The cost has gone so high and the availability of contractors has gone so high. And the cost of the contractors has gone so high. The city themselves is leveling and building the park.
Yeah.
And the funding that was originally generated through the donation and our matching, which used to be able to handle replacing 6 brand new fields, will barely pay for 2. That's how much AstroTurf, artificial grass has gone up, the shipping
Why
of,
are they doing astroturf?
well, that was the original concept. Original concept was for 3 all season fields, so you could play softball year round for adults. And also have the 3 small fields for Little League. Little League doesn't like all artificial surface, they want real dirt, thank God. It's a whole lot cheaper, but you're talking about funding now for restrooms, for everything is 60 years old. The
Yeah,
light towers, everything was 60 years old. It's just like building a brand new project.
I really like to see it being done. I understand all the problems that they've had. My kids used to play out there. I hired out there, and I've been wanting it to be part of the city for a very long time, so I'm glad to see it being done. But it has been a pain in the patootie.
Having built this thing will be so far was only phase 1, we're still phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4.
Yeah,
As of right now, we're
all right, John.
Yes.
But that certainly convinces me we made the right decision. And secondly, even if you two had recused yourself, we still have quorum and 3 votes, so it's not even material. So we're in great shape across the board, I'd say.
Susan's point is thankful.
Yeah, it is a benefit to the community. I mean, just that Little League has been for years and years, and it is a benefit. Whether my kids were involved eons ago, because eons ago, but all kids, we can get it. All right, next.
All right. I'll burn through the rest of these here. So Antelope Road, we did cut them a check because they bought some pipe, which the specs allow for, so, and we've done it. You know, we do that about 50 to 25% of the time on our project, so. The anticipated start date is still somewhere in October, possibly November, so they're get it done, so. Jimmy Cove Pump Station 2, we've got a real solid plan on how to achieve our installation. Our crew went out there, bypass the station temporarily, and jackhammer the bottom of the existing wet well out to place there's a lot of cars. Right. It looked pretty brutal down there. I felt bad for them. But they got it done. They got it done really quick, actually, just in a couple of days. And we're pushing out the installation of the wet well to minimize bypassing. So we'll start that probably in a couple of weeks. That one, Echo Way, not a whole lot of movement. We're just looking at design right now. Miscellaneous pump station upgrade, we're moving there. Forest Street and Gold Hill, the railroad crossing abandonment. There's no, we're just working on design still. There's no real, we did get our results back from Shannon Wilson for the subsurface investigation. And they went down 25 feet and didn't find any hard rock, so, which is really surprising.
Yeah, Gold Hill is,
Up on that hill.
yeah, that's rock.
Yeah.
When I read that, I thought, oh.
So, well, I mean, we'll run with it in the anticipation that we'll probably run into rock here and there, but we have a hard time putting it in the plan.
Cool.
Then the stormwater facility, no movement there, and the skating UV upgrades on at Shade Cove. They're working out bugs. We're working on punch lists with the treatment folks for the contractor to just finalize that once and for all. And the UV disinfection, they submitted 90% plans, we reviewed them. They look pretty good. There's a lot more going on there, in my opinion. There's a lot more going on there than I anticipated. But it's going to be really cool. We're getting a new covered work area know, done welding shop out there. There's a lot of bells and whistles to it. It's really nice.
What's our ETA? Still a while.
Yeah. I think we were thinking like next.
I don't think
spring,
they're gonna
summer.
put it, I don't think it's gonna be operational next summer. Yeah, it's what happens when you hire outside engineers.
It's just tough. Like I said, I mean, we're getting something pretty nice. If we would have done it, it would have been like, yeah.
Well, as a
You just drop it in, right?
logically, if we hire outside engineers, they're necessarily second best.
They can't
Since
be any
we've taken
better than
out-
that, yeah.
Carl's words.
Okay.
So it'd be nice when that thing is done.
Oh, yeah.
And all the chlorine, all that stuff.
It's very cool.
Yeah,
And everybody I've mentioned project to has been very pleased and impressed. It's another great thing that RVSS.
yeah, and
Serious.
actually, we just got notified from DEQ, I think, that there's some kind of chlorine worker strike somewhere, so we're gonna expect a shortage of difficulty obtaining chlorine in the near future, so.
Maybe we should go into it and sell it to people.
Chlorine, I understand. For chlorine, I understand there's a labor pool.
So, yeah, I mean, this happened once before when one of the big chlorine factories up in Washington, I think, caught on fire or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, and it was bad. There's also, I guess there's gonna be another shortage.
You couldn't find pool chlorine anywhere in the Western Hemisphere.
Did you have to go to chlorine gas or something like that?
Well, Kevin, I don't know how Kevin did this, but he located someplace in Pennsylvania that had enough, and he got it shipped all the way from Pennsylvania.
I think it was Roth that found it.
Oh, was it? Yeah.
Which makes a lot of sense.
That doesn't surprise me, yeah.
He's the internet sleuth.
Yeah, so,
When she slams up.
you know, we use, we use the gas and Shady Cove, and that's kind of hard to come by anyway, so we'll just make sure we have, probably get a couple extra cylinders on that. The hypochlorite, we don't use very much of it at Gold Hill, but, we'll stock up on it, but, worst case scenario, Medford's got, they use that also. And, the amount they use compared to what we use, they wouldn't even notice if we wanted to. We do it with information.
That's it for me.
Okay, thanks, Nick. TJ, your turn.
In the collection system, they cleaned 14 3/4 miles of pipe. This month, they're working on root sawing, a lot of roots out of one, so a little bit slower production. Roots out. TV crew inspected 7 miles. Today, for example, they're still working on Table Rock, trying to locate lines to the contractors on that water project, doesn't keep that down. Shady Cove 2, Nick talked about that. Electrical cabinet got installed today. So get ahead of that project. And the Shady Cove treatment plant, just testing alarm function, punch list. Nothing new in Gold Hill, lagoons. Took in kind of on average 283,000 gallons. The TV truck is set to be delivered tomorrow. So it kept getting delayed, but it was supposed to be here last month, but it'll be here tomorrow, so I think there should be a check in there. Yep. And then we sold unit 19. We have a couple more trucks to be sold on the Oregon surplus website for $6,600. The state gets $792, so some dealer out of Milwaukee bought it for $7,392. It's gonna get picked up sometime next week, and trucks taking it to California, I guess. Cool. So that's all I have to report.
All right, any questions of TJ? Good deal.
TJ, can we have a tour of the camera truck when we get it? I'd like to see it.
Yes. Yep.
Sounds
We'll have it
cool.
ready next,
Yeah,
next
that'll be
month.
fun.
Yep. Perfect.
Okay, cool.
All right. Going along smoothly and throw a roadblock. Okay, so good news, we have all of our positions filled. So I'm happy with that. Regional treatment rates. So Monday, the regional rate committee approved a 6.36% increase in regional treatment rates. And you guys understand all of that, what they tried to explain to us?
Kind of, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I'll try to make it more clear in a minute here. But anyway, so we are obligated to pay that, starting in September. And then the question really for the board right now is, do we want to just, keep our rates as they are, suck up the difference and then make up for it when we raise rates like we normally do in July? Or do we want to do something right now to make that, to start collecting that? Yes, Joe.
So you told me how many dollars that would be for the 10 months.
Yeah, it's a 275,000-ish.
That's a piece of cash.
Yeah, it's not nothing.
And also, I know, I'll have comments about this at some point, because I told you I'd tell my anecdotal story. But as we're reflecting, possibly, on letting the employees down first, that's an expense too, that we're at least contemplating.
Yes.
So there's multiple things coming down the line that,
There always is.
apart from that, it's not the only thing that we've been reflecting about. And the cost of doing PERS, did you say would be 70-ish grand or something like
that
that?
wouldn't go into effect until next July.
Understood,
Yeah.
but it's still coming.
Yes.
It's still money.
Yes. So if you were here for the presentations on Monday, they are projecting that the treatment rates, which right now are a little over $10 for a single family home, are going to go up to 30 or 35,000 over the next 10 years. 30 or 35 dollars over the next 10 years. So this is the first big increase of a series of big increases that we're going to be faced with. So and so then again, you don't have a whole lot of choices. I mean, presumably we're equal partners with Bedford, and we can push back on that and all that. But the reality is that this work, they're obligated to do this work, and there's not much alternative to raising the rates to pay for it. So that becomes the question, for the board. We have right now in our budget for the general fund, we have a $300,000 contingency. So that would cover this. If we say we're going to keep the rates where they are, we're going to just use our contingency to cover the difference, and we'll make up for it when we raise our rates in July. Or we could go the other route and say, this is unexpected, it happened, we need to make up for it, and we can make an adjustment for rates now. My recommendation is to not do that. I would rather just take the hit now and stick with our normal schedule of adjusting rates in July. I did scold Bedford for doing it outside of the budget. I wish they hadn't done that, because it's just, we have our routine. I don't think they do it that way, so I think they could work around the budget. But anyway, that would be my recommendation, is that we just use our contingency to cover that difference when we do our budget for the next fiscal year, and we do our rate adjustment. We'll get that money back, and we're also facing another 17% increase in treatment charges. So it's going to start feeling real. The other thing they made a point of, and I've made this point several times, is the rates we have here are the same relative to the rest of the state. So it's people are accustomed to that, they expect that. So it is going to be a shock no matter what, but it can be tempered a little bit with the knowledge that this is going to get us kind of more towards what most other communities are paying.
So they were gonna go up next July anyway, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
And so now we'll have to do it even more.
yes.
just a little.
And, are we gonna, like, here you've got, 2.2%. Just
Yeah.
for that.
Right, yeah, if we,
But,
yeah.
are we gonna do it more than that,
Oh, yeah.
2.2% to make up for what, if we don't
Yeah.
do it right now?
Yeah, so we would, we would do our budget like we always do our budget. I mean,
Okay.
we're gonna look at what our expenses are, We're gonna look at what our rates are and, project those out 5 years and make sure we're balanced in 5 years. And that's how we've always, not always, but over the last 10 years or so, have set our rates is we do a 5-year cash flow analysis. Based on the information that we have. So now we know more information about what rates are. Honestly, with what we did last year, we were assuming a 10% increase in treatment rates every year for 5 years. So, next year it's going to be higher. We know it's going to be higher. And so what we do, we project out all of our expenses, we project out our revenues, and we set our rates so that over the course of 5 years, we stay positive.
How much would we have to raise it to absorb the 275,000 if we do now, Carl?
What's that now?
How much would we have to raise it immediately to compensate for the 275 if that's the way we go?
It would be.
I know you put it, but I know you have the top of your head too.
Like 50 cents,
Yeah, or 60
Maybe.
cents. Yeah.
2.2% of 27. It's actually only, yeah, 50 cents.
Yeah, so, we're at 27, I mean, we may end up having to go up to 30. So, I mean, we'll know that when we get into February, when we start actually presenting the budget. I guess the point I want to make is we have sufficient funds that we don't have to raise rates right now to still meet this obligation. And it would not, restrict any of our other expenses. And worst case scenario, we also have over $1 million in our general fund that's unreserved fund balance. So if things got really bad, we use our contingency on this, and we had something else that needed contingency, we could do a supplemental budget to do some of that reserve. So we have that flexibility. And I guess for me, it's more disruptive than it's worth to try to do rate changes when we just did one too much.
Because we have one in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what people would see is
Yes.
one and then another.
Yes.
So
Go ahead, Roger.
I do recall, us thinking that we were, when we did the couple of 10%, we were planning to do a couple 10% increases. We were doing budget this year. That I thought that might cover something unexpected.
Yeah.
Like this. So I'm kind of surprised that considering we raised it 10%, we're still maybe in the hole.
We're not.
Well, but theoretically, we are, right? We're 2% behind where we should be, perhaps.
Well, I don't think we anticipated them coming in at a 1.6% rate increase in September. So we just did a 10% rate increase in July.
So if we had done a 12% rate increase, we'd have this covered, right? So it's just kind of like,
Yeah.
and so I'm surprised that we were that close. There wasn't a little buffer there.
I see what Roger's saying, but isn't part of the problem what they elected to do with mid-budget cycle?
Yeah,
That snuck up on you more than the number.
Right, that's the concern, is that we've already set our budget and, so basically this one line item in our budget is gonna be 6% higher than what we anticipated. It just happens to be the biggest line item in our budget. So,
Well, and on the finance side, customers side, we have 1 month to lift it. 1 month, we're gonna start billing. If we have to change that rate right now, we'd have to send out a whole nother quick notification to our customers. We're still gonna get a ton of calls from them because we just increased it July 1. So on our side, keeping the customers a little bit more happy, in my opinion, less phone calls up front of this increase, is just including it in what we budget for July 1 rate increase, because we're gonna have to increase it 17% anyways, and then adding that. So absorbing it now, but catching it up later in the next fiscal year. But doing a rate increase mid when we've always done it July 1, and now we're coming 2 months later going, oh, and here's another 60 cents we're gonna take from you. On the customer side, we'll get a lot of calls up front, and we don't really have enough time to prepare them for that.
All right, so I'm definitely in favor of deferring the rate increase for two reasons. I think it's the right thing to do because of complexity of doing it and the people behind it. And also that'll be after, when we do raise the rates next year, it'll be after the election.
That probably is a
Oh, right.
legitimate
Yes,
consideration.
it
Yeah.
So in theory, if you're gonna make a statement now, if we were to make a statement and being involved in budgets of several entities, what could I state about where our rates will be in July of 2025 if we implement that 6% later, total of 23% increase in rates?
No. So, you know, the treatment charge is a portion of our budget. It's about a third of what a little bit more than a third of what our rate is. So that 6% increase, to cover that, translates to about a 2.2% increase in our overall rate. So that 17% is probably going to translate down to about a 6 or 7% increase in our overall rate. So you take that 2% and that 7%, we're probably looking at about 9% increase just to cover treatment charges.
Yes.
And then we'll probably need some to, because our expenses go up, anyway. So we could easily be looking at, a 10% increase or maybe a little bit more than that next year.
Okay.
Mostly driven by treatment charges, but already.
I asked that question now because we're going into budgets in the meadows. And we pay $60,000 a year to Rhode Valley Sewer Service. How much of that will the increase be on? Is it straight across the board? It'll be that percentage of our total $60,000 a year?
Yeah.
Because unlike Medford, we've merged collection and treatment.
Yeah.
They're considering merging it.
Mhm.
And that's, I think they will, and I think they will very soon.
Yeah.
But they're still talking about it.
So it's safe to say that our rates will increase by 10% by next July.
Oh,
Or more.
On July.
Yeah, you should expect on July 1st at least a 10% increase. That's, put a bunch of caveats on that because we haven't even started the budget process. We're only one quarter into the current budget year.
I'd rather plan for a higher amount, not have to pay it as opposed to.
it's always good.
Yeah, and this is all somewhat expected. When we were doing the projections for Gold Hill, and what their rates would be ultimately, we assumed or believed that, our rate, by the time that project was finished, would be close to about $55. And that's all driven by these upgrades to the treatment plant. So that's what I expected to end up. And based on what they told us yesterday, I think we're not gonna have any problem hitting that number.
The hard part is just this doing it
Yeah.
mid fiscal year
Right.
and 2 months after we just did, and an emergency like next month.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's no time to repair, let our customers know, they're the ones being
So
affected by it.
they'll be hit and they'll be hit at the
Yeah.
same time.
Yeah,
And it's,
so it's kind of easier, I think, on us and the customers just to wait till they know every July 1 they're gonna get a rate increase.
Yeah,
And it'll be 2% higher than what we would normally have anticipated to make up for this, what we're absorbing right now.
Right.
And
I think I understood this, but sorry, Carl.
go ahead.
So they're doing it now, I guess, for a couple reasons. One, they have to start paying for engineering studies.
Yeah.
And two, to go to SPGI, S&P Global, to get the bond issuance, they have to show a certain cash flow
Right.
to support it, and they need to bump it up to get there.
Yes.
Yes.
So, and that's, at the presentation on Monday, they kept talking about how they needed to have a reserve of $200 million or something like that.
yeah, that was kind of freaky.
Maybe those-
But then they
But that's
explain,
not what they meant.
they need to have a cash flow of that. But they
need-
also want to have a reserve so they can essentially amortize the payment
Yeah.
and have money to pay it, because we don't want to kaboom when
Right.
the 30-year mini bonds come due.
Yeah, when you sell bond, you have to have a bond reserve, which is, I think Lorraine said it was gonna be 1.5% of what the bond is. So they're gonna have to have, a couple $1 million in reserve just for bonds, but the cash flow part of it is they have to demonstrate that over a certain amount of time, they have enough revenue to make the payments, and that's where that $250 came in. And that's why they want to combine their treatment and collections rate to show a higher cash flow.
Right.
To satisfy that. So that makes sense.
Are they actually gonna be putting money aside to pay the principal? Because I know the EPA loan is more flexible and you can pay or not. You have more flexibility in repayment, but I certainly hope John and Ryan are putting money aside to pay when those bonds become due, or they're staggering the maturities, or I suggested they put in a call feature, and everybody looked at me like I either had two heads and it was a stupid idea, or I had two heads and they didn't know what I was talking about. In any event, I was multiply headed. But I hope they're thinking hard about that, because we don't need a bomb 30 years from now, when none of us will be here, but someone's gonna have to pay for it. Well, some of us might.
Yeah, so, I know that the 10% increases they just did, 5% of that was just specifically dedicated to going to a reserve to cover principal.
From the reserve, the rate that they're gonna get on the money that they store as a reserve is gonna be higher than they pay for the bond.
Yeah.
So might not be that bad.
No. Hopefully, and they haven't sold any yet, so they don't know what the rate's gonna be, and there's a lot of moving parts
They're
here.
not gonna be very liquid. It's gonna be very small offerings. It's gonna be a lot of local rich families, I should think.
Oh, you think so?
I bet.
Okay.
I mean, what, 4.3% triple tax free, drop 10K on that, that could be done. There's plenty of families that could do that.
That'd be good. People invest in the community.
Okay,
Okay, so is the general consensus that we're gonna keep our rates as they are and?
do you need a motion on that, or
No.
it's just good consent, okay?
Okay, moving on, the Ashland number 2 pump station, we're still on the design phase for the solar plan on that. Shady Cove on tax certifications, I got a lot more to say, because Brent and I went over there this morning, and I think we got everything sorted out. So they had about $58,000 that they underbilled last year. And then the year before that, everything was good. Everything before that was just that one isolated year when they built the building out. $58,000. And they came back and said, by the way, our agreement says you pay us for billing services $50,000, and that's supposed to increase by 3% every year. And I said, well, it kind of says that, but it kind of doesn't. But we didn't want to argue too hard about that. And so one of the city councilors suggested, so they were saying that we owe them money because we haven't paid them enough on this $50,000, and they might be right. And so one of the councilors said, let's just call the wash, just start fresh for day one, and we'll do an amendment and basically reset everything as starting now. So that sounds like a good idea. It seems fair. It is, and you look at the numbers, it is kind of a wash or even in our favor if we accept the premise that we go down increases from back 5 years. So I'm going to draft up an amendment to the agreement that basically says, we'll pay them $50,000 this year, and then 55 next year, and then every year after that, there'll be a 3% increase.
Automatic.
And
Yeah.
we're gonna let them keep on doing the building?
Yeah, well, that's in the agreement. That agreement expires in 2028, so we'd at least have to honor that part of it.
Okay,
It's real important to them to keep the building. And I know it's we feel a lot better about it when we're doing it. But it really is what keeps their office open. Because they don't bill for any, they have their public safety fees and they attach that to the sewer bill. If they were just sending out the public safety fees without the sewer bill, I think, their delinquency rate would be through the roof. We would just ignore it.
And our billing fee, we pay that,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Are they gonna do a better job of making sure that?
they have so
Something-
far, they have filed their tax certification. And that came to $92,000.
Wow.
for 3 years.
For
'Cause they
3
were
years,
behind
yeah.
3 years, so.
So that's been fine. It was interesting, when they came in and we're talking about, digging up services and stuff. And one of the ones that they were targeting was one of the restaurants in town. They're not on the tax cert list. So I guess they must have made themselves current, so that's good. So that's been filed, and so, we expect that will start coming in here after November, with that. They're cleaning house quite a bit. And that's good, and and the information that they're gonna be sending Brenda is a lot more detailed than what we have been getting on what their questions are. So, at least for now, they're stepping up, it's looking good. So, in 3 years, or 4 years, whatever, when it comes time to renew our agreement with them, we can have a discussion and see if it's worthwhile to have them continue to go or take it back. So that was actually real good news. It was a good meeting we had this morning.
Michelle's very responsive up there. I think she's doing a great job keeping us informed of what's going on. She's probably going to start providing more detail than we even need. So I feel confident in their billing at this point.
Okay, good.
They do appreciate the help that you guys provided, big time.
Good deal. Okay,
Okay, Jacksonville, we're moving forward with taking over billing. And so that's on schedule to happen starting this summer. You probably got a notice in your mail, Roger?
I didn't see it.
Okay, well.
Did you read your newsletter?
I do.
So that's on track. We're switching our billing software. We're keeping the same software, but switching the platform from an on-site to a cloud-based platform. And that's going to happen in October. And once that's done, so that should go pretty smoothly. We're gonna farm that work out. We're not gonna try to do it ourselves. We're gonna have Springbrook do the transfer for us. So that'll make it a lot easier. And it should be on track. And we'll be sending bills out beginning in January for December service. So yeah, that seems going real well. Gold Hill updates. So the IFA loan, that transfer is complete. The rural development loan that they have, that's still in process. Brent and I met with the rural development representative on Monday. They've got all the information they need from the city. They've got all the information they need from us. They are writing their recommendation that they transfer that loan over to us, which makes the most sense. And that gets kicked up to the state level and regional, federal level where it goes. So we'll have to wait for that decision. One question I have, is there may be some benefit to notifying our congressman about this, seeing if he can put his weight behind the USDA and say, this is a great thing to do. So if it's okay with you guys, I'm going to send it over to Cliff Vince and just ask someone that.
I think that's a good idea.
But I think it's, that's the kind of thing, that's why we have conference. So I'm going to do that just to try to move this along.
I think that's a really good idea.
The transfer of assets, that's all complete, or almost all complete. And we end up getting 140,000. It keeps getting less, but that's what's in there. And presumably they have like $27,000 in accounts receivable, past due bills or something like that. But they're not sure if that's real money or not. What Lily told me, she's the city manager, she told me on Friday that they tried to track down where that number came from. And in 2019, when they were switching their finance software, there was a journal entry that just said accounts receivable $50,000. And in the following year, there was another journal entry that says $23,000 received, accounts receivable is down to $27,000. And I suspect that when they did that first $50,000 entry, that was just a placeholder. I mean, they knew there was something coming in, but they didn't know what. So I doubt we'll see I doubt it exists, and I'd like to see it. Yeah. Shady Cove's doing a lot of house cleaning. Gold Hill's got a lot more house cleaning to do, and a lot of it's happening. So I think they're actually getting a lot of done this year.
I think we're lucky that we got $142,000.
Yeah.
I would not have thought 6 months ago that would happen.
I didn't either. I mean, honestly, I know it's supposed to be there, but I was surprised that it actually was. So that money's all in our debt reserve fund now. So when we go to those, when we have to start paying back loans, it's going to be covered. Okay, moving on. Transfer to PERS. So I put together a memo that was going to distribute to staff. And it's kind of a side-by-side comparison of what the benefits and costs are. Overall, it seems like it's a better plan, just for the fact that, John's mentioned it several times, it's a guaranteed benefit. So you're never going to outlive the money. And so for most employees, that probably carries a lot of weight to it. I did put in there, and my recommendation would be that if we make this transition, that we do that in a kind of a revenue, make it revenue neutral. And so since we would be having to pay about 2.5% higher wages into PERS than we currently put into people's defined contribution plan, in order to offset that, I would recommend that we trim the cost of living adjustment next year by that same 2.5%. So that part's a wash. Again, that's your decision, whether or not you want to do that. You're looking at about a $75,000 a year increase, at least for the first year, in expenses for the retirement plan. So that would be my recommendation. Again, that's if you decide that that we want to increase benefits and just make it better, then to let employees have that, then that's fine. Yes.
Okay, go ahead, John.
The way we do it, which actually I think is the best way for the employees and is neutral to the employer, is the employee cut as I think 7% of gross income towards CalPERS.
You're at 6, but yeah.
It's something like that. There was a time when the county paid that, but they said, but we're not going to give you as big a raise. That's bad for us, because if I pay the 7% myself, but have a 7% higher base salary, my pension is 7% higher at the end of the day. So we either want them to somehow pay that out of their raise the salary, but then pay it out of the salary, not directly from us. So their base salary is higher. That helps us. Them doesn't hurt us at all. But I don't know if that's doable in Oregon. You see do you understand my distinction?
So
I got an O for Brenda, so I think I'm ahead of the game. Better than my call option talk.
Well, I think the only way to have the employees cover that extra 2.5% would be to take it off. The raise goes up. We get a cost of living adjustment next July. That's what we normally do. And if we just reduce that amount, is what I'm talking about.
See, my check, I get the whole cost of living raise, but then just, there's FICA, Social Security, CalPERS. And that's just a line, that's an above the line pre-tax deduction. It's not a reduction in my actual salary.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing as all my other
Right.
pre-tax contributions, 457, whatever. And then after-tax deductions, whatever.
Yeah.
So if you do it that way, you lose zero because it's still getting funded. They get more money at the end of the day. It seems like that's happier for all if it can be done under Oregon law.
So you're saying the employer portion is put into the wage instead of directly into PERS, and then the employee pays both.
No,
The
we
employer
would pay
portion into PERS.
my employer has to pay the employee portion anyway. It's like Social Security. There's
So one thing,
employee.
isn't that what we're gonna do? I think that's what we're gonna do.
No, that's not what
We're not
Carl
paying the
suggested.
6%?
We're not.
No. That is an option. We could pay the
It is an
6%
option,
and
but
give
that's
a
not-
COLA, and that's cool too. That's on the table for us to discuss. That's a judgment.
Yeah.
But
What you want to do is skew it towards not cutting the salary. And if you need them to fund it, have it funded as a line item, so we don't have, if we decide we don't want to pay the $75,000, which is a decision we'll have to make, it's a separate question. I'm just sharing the map of the alternatives, that's all.
Yeah.
It's better for the employers to have a higher base salary, not give up their COLA, and to pay it in a different way, if they're going to pay it.
Yeah, if you can do it, that's the better way.
Yeah, that's what we do, and I end up getting a 7% higher pension when I retire, and that is not a part of the check I will be tearing up, thank you.
So the way it's set up right now is currently employees pay 6% of their salary into retirement. And so we would, if we switch to PERS, we would continue with that. So instead of that 6% going into their 401k, it would go into their, it's called an IAP with PERS. So that part's already set.
That's a defined contribution, and they do as well as whatever they buy.
Yes,
The account does.
yeah, and it's very limited in what they can buy, but yeah, it is a defined contribution portion of it. So I guess I'm confused if we did the full COLA and where would we go with that extra 2%?
8.5, says 6.
Could we do that?
I don't know, I don't see why not. I get what you.
I know you
it's the light
understand it.
bulb.
I know you understand it, and it's totally doable in California, so it must be federally doable under FASB and all that great stuff.
Yeah,
But is it Oregonly doable? You are the boss of that. I don't know Oregon law about payroll. I
Well,
couldn't answer that.
But what you're paying out of your salary, that's the 7% individual contribution, is they're picking that up for you.
They're picking up, no, it's more than 7 as the total contribution. It's a good pension. Let you pay for it. We pay the employee portion, they pay the employer portion. It's like Social Security and Medicare. If you're self-employed, you pay 13%. If you're employed, you pay 7 and 6.
Right, but if we were to do it this way, we would have to increase the withholding to more than what the employee share is.
No, you'd have to withhold from their paycheck a pre-tax sum equal to the PERS contribution, but not deduct it from their top line.
Yeah,
Take it off after.
give
And
them
that-
their COLA, take it off down here.
right, but what would you classify? I guess that's the
Contribution.
Yeah, I mean, my pay, I'll show you my paycheck, Carl. We have no
Okay.
secrets. And it says CalPERS contribution, 457 contribution, Social Security, Medicare, FICA, whatever it says on everyone's paycheck, and that just is a line. And it comes out pre-tax, so it's better than it could be.
So say your 6 is gonna be.
Yeah,
Yeah, the 6 will end up being 5 or 4 and change for most people in reality, because it's pre-tax.
well, no, it'd be, but they're already doing the 6, I mean, so if we were to, so we would have to take another 2.5%
That's correct.
On a
Yes.
different line item.
on a different line item.
Yes.
That's how it works.
Pre-tax.
But our defined contribution is optional. The county pays some for free,
Yeah,
and then if I elect to pay some, that's my business, and I can do it as a Roth or a pre-tax, also my business. But that's another line item.
okay, I'll have to give it my HR department.
I'm not HR.
But it ends up being a lot, I mean, 7%, depending on how many years you have in and how much you made.
Yeah,
It's a
That adds
meaningful
up.
piece of money for no loss to you at all, and no loss to them at all. It's revenue neutral and more cash in their pocket. That seems relatively no-brainerish if the math could work, if it can be done under the law.
yeah. So, yeah, that's probably the question we have. Maybe would be how it affects the tax withholding, if that's,
It's a pre-tax withholding, so
Yeah.
if they spend $100, in effect, the IRS gives them 12 or 21%, depending on their
But-
bracket, and Oregon gives them 8.8.
but, okay, so in California, the state or your employer pays into the pension portion.
Yes.
Yes,
That full amount.
How much?
It doesn't
I
matter.
can't remember,
It
it's
doesn't
like
matter.
6-ish, 7-ish, something
And
like
then-
that,
And then you have your individual part that you pay, but they pay for you.
No, they used to pay it for us, but in lieu of that, we gave that up and agreed to pay ourselves. In exchange for an increase in salary of that exact amount. So
Okay,
they lost no money. We actually came out ahead because it's pre-tax, so the difference, like 1%. we came out
okay,
ahead.
so they were paying that part,
Years
and
ago,
you
yeah.
said, no, we'll pay that ourselves.
But we want this
that
raise
increase
instead.
in Salaries.
Right.
Okay,
Which raises your retirement, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So basically, you're making.
right,
So I mean, if you're getting 1.5% per year of service, by doing the numbers that way, you're hurting RVSS zero. You're giving them 1% better off because it's pre-tax, and you're giving them essentially 5 years of credit in effect, because that's 7.5%, you're giving them 7. Again, semi no-brainerish, Carl.
But they are currently paying that 6%.
But that's the defined contribution. That's a mandatory 457 contribution, essentially.
Oh, right.
Same thing.
Yeah.
They really are the same.
It is, yeah,
One is
it's
pre-tax, one is
mandatory. So when we switch over, they're still paying it.
Is the 401A is pre-tax or post-tax?
It's pre-tax.
It's okay.
So they're paying that pre-tax. When we switch to PERS, the percentages are, it's still a 6% that employees would be paying that.
But that's just a no change.
Right, that part's a no change.
It's a mandatory defined
And
contribution.
so what I'm saying is on the employer contribution, right now we pay 8.6% of salary, and that goes into a 401 plan.
Okay.
When we switch to PERS, we're gonna be paying 11.1%.
Okay.
So we're gonna be paying, the employer is gonna be paying 2.5% higher salary than we are currently paying.
And that's all of the defined benefit or defined contribution?
That's the defined benefit portion.
So you won't be paying any more money into defined contribution anymore,
No, we would not for
right?
employees that switch.
All right.
So there is an increase in expense to the organization of 2.5% of payroll by making that. And so what I was suggesting is that if we wanted to make that part revenue neutral, the way to do it would be to trim the COLA for the first year. Would be, and then everything would be even to start with.
I get it. So by organizing the defined benefit payments the way we've been talking about is also,
Yeah.
when we get there, not a bad idea.
So yeah, and that's the part. I mean,
I don't see why
know.
California could do it. Well, it could.
Yeah,
It's not bad.
if we can deduct from the employee's payroll to make the employer contribution, that's the part that I think.
I do have done it for 15 years.
Okay,
At least the feds are okay with that. I don't know if it's a California.
okay, we'll explore that and see if that's available to us. I mean, it makes sense.
It sounds like if we're gonna start moving that direction, if the employees, if that's what the employees want, the more
Yeah.
information we have, the better.
Mhm.
So
Totally.
we'll keep moving in that direction, because we're not gonna make the change until the next
Yeah,
budget year
July
anyway.
is, I'm looking at the next budget, but we'll need a couple of months processing to get all that taken care of. Yes,
Can I share my anecdote?
sure.
The day after,
Short,
it,
okay.
whatever,
Days in charge.
respectfully, whatever. So the day after we had the last conversation about PERS, completely out of the blue, I got a call from the police department chief. I talked to the chief, I'm a DA. And he's the acting city manager now for weed because they couldn't get someone for a period of time. And I was like, Justin, the struggle must be real. Small town, people are expensive. How are you getting people? And he said, it's easy. We just post the ads in non-PERS states and they come running.
Oh.
And completely, and the first thing I did was got up and I said, Carl, you've got to be kidding, man. Did you call this guy and tell him to say that? But it was absolutely true. It's exactly what he says. So we've got people from Oklahoma, we've got people from here, we've got people from here to come to a town of 2,500 people for 6 at 55. So I am not fooling when I say it's a thing. Obviously, the employees need to decide and we need to decide as a group, but it's not, it's a retention and attracting employees thing. It really is.
How much is 55?
I'm 2 at 55. It's a little bit worse now. I don't think they're giving them 2 at 55. I misspoke. It's probably 2 at 62 now. That's what we're giving our new people. So you're very right. Thank you. But it's still not too shabby.
No.
Plus, if you served in the armed forces, you can buy 4 years. So you start off with 4 years towards your 5 of a recent vesting, just like that, if you serve. Very handy.
It's a good thing.
It really is.
That part's a really good thing.
Especially if you have like a non-working spouse like I do, or someone gets ill, like I hope no one here or anyone ever does. That check is very nice.
Okay. So we'll look and see about that option of getting that 2%, pre-tax and see if there's a way to do that. I do want to mention, the other part that was kind of dicey was who was in it and who was out of it, and how we determined that. Essentially, I had a discussion with our labor attorney this morning. You have to do it in a way that's non-discriminatory.
Right.
So
That was the other thing I was worried about, is I wanna make
realistically, it's
sure
all
that
based on
it feels-
age. So, the way we're going to approach it is, we're gonna set the parameters that anyone over a certain age, when we switch, who plans to retire and all this stuff. But the way we do it is we are going to present a resolution that will identify who's in, who's out. And we're gonna talk to all the people that are kind of in that in-between group and see how they want to. But we're pretty sure we can craft the language in a way that makes it more voluntary than mandatory. And that way you avoid that question. So for instance, because, you vest at 5 years or the age of 65. So there's going to be people who, intend to retire before both of those happen. Not wait till 65, not wait for 5 more years and retire. So we want to protect them. But there may be people who are currently over 60 who said, you know what, I want to get in, I want to go with 65 and get vested, get the health benefits and all that kind of stuff. And they might want to be in. So we'll need to craft the language in a way that makes it more voluntary and put that in a resolution. And then when we update our contract with Mission Square, which is our current retirement provider, that's the class we define. It's the class of employees who are defined in this resolution. So it's a little bit tricky, but we will be able to make that work in a way that doesn't hurt anybody. If we just made everybody go into first, then it would be a detriment to some people because they're not getting that.
And once the dust settles with all this, future employees will be.
Once you get us old people out, then.
There'll be what employees? Do you say Calvin?
Future.
Oh, I
They would
think
be
so.
future first.
Yeah, so there's going to be a handful, at most 7 people that are currently working here that would not be part of this changeover. And any new hires, after that, would be on that. There's going to be, a 5-year transition period or so. That's just. Okay, so my plan is I'm going to present this to our staff at our staff meeting tomorrow. Let them know this is under consideration. The part of that John brought up about how to cover that 2.5%, I'm going to let them know what our discussion was, and so that's not the term yet. And just and get a sense of what people want.
Yeah.
I might take a survey. I might just talk to people individually. We'll get an idea of how people feel about it. And if employees are strongly supportive of it, we'll figure out the answer to that 2.5% question. And then at some point in the near future, next couple of months, we'll have a resolution to identify the class of people who are not going into PERS, and we'll have a resolution requesting to join PERS. And then that goes to PERS. They put together a contract. We review the contract, we sign it, and everything's in motion. So easy peasy.
Okay, so I guess I would be somewhat in favor of it being neutral, on the 2.5% part. And so I would think that if the board is in that direction, you should be leaning that direction in your meeting instead of, it sounds like you left it like it's kind of vague on the 2%. I think we should be more defined. On the 2.5%.
Of whether your intent is to make it revenue neutral.
Right.
In the most beneficial way possible.
Yes. Before before you, yeah.
Okay,
So I think they should know that, because where
Yeah.
are we with, you know,
Yeah.
is it gonna be revenue neutral or
Yeah.
not?
I agree.
Well, we should certainly. Yeah, I mean, I think. Have them pay it, like increase the salary, get the cost of living to compensate for it, so it's pretty neutral.
yeah,
I mean, replacing, how expensive is it to find new employees versus keeping current ones happy? It's more than 2% worth it.
yeah.
Well, I'm not
Sure,
following you.
Yeah,
But now,
I'm not following your statement.
Yeah, 2.2%.
we don't get rid of the cost of living, which would say be 2%, we give it to them.
Right, I know,
They
I
have to pay it
understand
as a
that
line
part,
item.
I understand what you're saying, but because it's the percentage that Carl's talking about is the employer percentage that sounds like it's outside of payroll.
well, that's what we gotta find out.
Yeah.
But the idea is you give the regular cost of living, so their base salary is
Right.
higher, but you're deducting pre-tax, so, you know, they're still paying that 2%, but they're getting a small tax benefit because but overall, since their base salary is higher, when they reach retirement age, their benefits will be better.
And it's the employee part, the employee portion that would be coming out. Yeah, why not the employer's portion?
If you're gonna try to explain that, to,
Yeah.
I mean, I kinda am following what John's saying, and I'm
Yeah.
pretty financially astute. And if you're gonna try to explain that to your employees, you better have charts and graphs,
What
an example paycheck or something, because it's, people
I
don't
think
get
the
it.
way I would say it is that one way to do this is to trim the cost of living adjustment for next year. Another way to do it that we're exploring is to try to get that 2% as a pre-tax contribution instead of a reduction in pay.
So you're looking at,
And so they would still be paying it, but it would be pre-tax versus just.
but then we'd
reduction
be
in salary.
paying 8.8% instead of 6%.
Yes, something like that, yeah.
But then that's not
Yeah.
ours to pay, but I guess you're paying
You're
us
kind
in a way
you're
anyway.
kind of laundering money.
That's what
You make it sound so dirty.
That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, there'll be more questions in the answer to the question. But,
That's what we gotta keep. I think we're moving in the right direction, but the more information we have, the clearer we can make it, so the employees understand what's going on, so they know how it's going to affect them, both now with their present paychecks and in the future when they retire. That's, we gotta make things, and as much as we can make it understandable for the people that are gonna be able to take the benefit of going to PERS and people that may not be able to for a myriad of reasons, but they don't feel like they're getting, hurt in any way. Okay? That's what we need to do.
It's gonna be hard not to be confusing.
yes. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah,
Well, the whole program is unbelievably complex.
Yes.
But PERS is complex to me.
Yeah.
But I see I see the advantages to a certain degree, especially, and I'm getting to where I almost see the advantages for some of our employees now. I'm not a big fan of PERS, but
Yeah.
there you go.
I mean, we talk about, we've done our fourth quarter financials and things like that, but one of the reasons is because we're not in PERS. I mean, honestly, because there are communities here locally that are paying up to 25% of their payroll into PERS right now. And that's the legacy of the tier one stuff. That's all been addressed, so we're unlikely to ever get to that point, but, that has been an overall advantage to our finances.
PERS has almost become a dirty word in certain areas.
Yeah, but the people who get it love it.
Oh, yeah.
John, how's that tier one working out for you? Working for me.
Actually,
That's what tier one.
my wife was a safety too, but
Oh, boy.
they got 3%.
John's buying lunch.
Yeah,
Okay, are we done with this
we're done
conversation
with
for
that,
now?
yeah.
Okay. we're gonna do the claims and we're gonna do an executive
Yeah,
session?
and it's a negotiable.
Okay.
Make a motion to pay the claims.
It's been moved and seconded, roll call please.
Peterson,
Yes.
Rivers-Tom,
Yes.
Mike Parsons.
Yes.
John Edwards. John Quinn.
Yes.
Okay, now,
Oh, shoot, I forgot the executive.
that's okay.
Can you just make it?
Can you think it?
I'm gonna make it.